Hello there everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Space Cowboy here with another video for you guys here this week with Mock Draft Monday. Yes, today we are doing another mock draft. As you know, every single week there's one coming out. And we're now 7 days into free agency, and we're getting an idea of how the Cowboys are trying to approach it. There will be a video coming out sometime tomorrow talking about the moves the Dallas Cowboys made from the re-signings, the releases, etc. outside of the Eric Kendricks signing, so stay tuned for that. But with that all out of the way, let's go ahead and dive straight into our 3-round mock draft that we got for today. And if you want to participate, head to one of the websites, either PFF, the Draft Network, etc. Do a 3-round mock draft and put that down below. Really curious to see what you guys are thinking this Cowboys team should do come draft time. With that, let's go ahead and get straight into this mock draft.
And here comes the pick.
With the 24th pick, the Dallas Cowboys select
Jordan Morgan, offensive tackle, Arizona. Now, this isn't the first time that we've taken Jordan Morgan in a mock draft before. The first time we did so was back in mock draft 4.0, where if you want to get an in-depth discussion about him as a prospect coming out of Arizona, click the top right of the screen right now. You'll get the link to that particular mock draft, and you can go to the section where we selected him 24th overall. But with where we're at right now with this Cowboys team, as we're now a week into free agency, as of this recording, it is March 17th of 2024, the Cowboys need to address their offensive line in one of two ways. One way would be you draft a starting left tackle, you play him there, you keep Tyler Smith at left guard, and then you have a competition between TJ Bass and Brock Hoffman at center. The second option would be you slide Tyler Smith to left tackle, you have TJ Bass play at left guard, Brock Hoffman at center, and then you address depth or possibly get a starter at the guard or center position in the later rounds of the draft. The Cowboys can go about rebuilding this offensive line in many ways, and if you were to ask what my personal preference would be, it would be determinant on what happens at pick 24. If the best player on the board, and this was the case in this mock draft, is an offensive lineman that can play left tackle, I think you should go get him. So in this case, you take a guy in Jordan Morgan. He's going to be your starting left tackle. You have Tyler Smith at left guard. Then at center, you have the competition between Hoffman and Bass. And then the right side of the offensive line and Martin and Steele, you figure out as you go. Not that Martin is bad. I just think that you're going to have to figure out, okay, how much longer is this dude going to play at a very high level, and how much longer can I rely on him? And then for Terrence Steele, it's a matter of how he performs in 2024. If he doesn't perform up to par with what we're asking him to do, then you might have a right tackle problem that you need to address in 2025 as well. But, again, go give me the best player on the board, and then we'll figure it out later. Here we go with Jordan Morgan at 24. Let's go ahead and move on to the next pick.
And here comes the pick.
the Dallas Cowboys select
Edgar and Cooper, linebacker, Texas A&M. Now, this is not the first time that we've taken Edgar and Cooper in a mock draft. In fact, last week we just did it with our second round selection, and here we do the same thing. If you want to get the full details on him as a prospect coming out of Texas A&M, click the top right of the screen right now so you can go get caught up with our second round selection in that mock draft. Now, as we know, the Cowboys did add Eric Kendricks to this linebacker core on a one-year deal, and I think that while that's nice, given the circumstances of what's been going on, they really need to add a young guy to this core. I think that when you see how this team is starting to approach this offseason in particular, it really doesn't look like they're going to have a lot of long-term options with guys outside the organization. And with that in mind, the Cowboys need to go into this draft being able to address the linebacker position properly and possibly double dip if needed, depending on what they do to fill out the roster in the remaining parts of free agency. I understand that it's still the first week, and we still have yet to see if the Cowboys will add more to the position or elsewhere, but they still need to get some guys in this linebacker room. You get a guy in Cooper that's going to be your starting middle linebacker moving forward for at least the next 4 seasons and be very productive of that at the NFL level. As I mentioned, we've already talked about him as a prospect in the previous mock draft, so you can go check out the details there. But let's go ahead and move on to our final selection here in this week's mock draft.
And here comes the pick.
the Dallas Cowboys select
Trey Benson, running back, Florida State. In my humble opinion, he is running back one of this draft class, my personal favorite, and I would love to see him in a Cowboys uniform depending on the value of the selection. There are some rumblings that the Cowboys could be interested in taking him as early as pick 24 or possibly with a trade down. That would be a bit too rich for my blood, but if we're talking about the player, you'd be getting a productive player for at minimum 4 years. When we talk about the prospect that he is coming out of Florida State, 6'1", 223 pounds, an ideal frame for a running back. Then you look at what he can do with his frame. Very aggressive runner. He can definitely break through tackles. His vision is really good. In fact, it's one of the more improved aspects of his game as a prospect, and that's allowed him to shoot up draft boards. Because with that vision and getting to the second level, he can showcase off his speed and his home run play ability. This is what the Cowboys really need at the running back position, is someone that's able to read the correct holes to run through and make the most of it on the football field. This is something that lacked last year with Tony Pollard, but it kind of started showcasing itself a bit later in the season. But when you have a lot of these chunk plays that you have the ability of making in the run game, and you're unable to do so because the running back is not doing their job, it's going to hurt you. So with that in mind, I think that those are the positives of him in terms of just the pure run game. As a pass catcher, I would say that Trey Benson is above average, and I think that he would suit the passing game well, with some exceptions with his pass blocking, and whenever he's been asked to pass block, it has not been great, to say the least. Now, another part of his game that I don't like, and I think that needs to be corrected, is from time to time, you see that he tries to look for contact a bit too much. There are moments where rather than just trying to get out of bounds when it's not necessary to see contact, or if we're talking about, hey, this is the play you need to run, get to the edge, find a hole, he's looking for contact instead. Now, if you're trying to say that, hey, we need a physical runner that isn't afraid to attack the defense, get those dirty yards, that's great and all. But if we're talking about preserving him for as long as possible, kind of like what I talked about with Jonathan Brooks as a running back, you don't know how long this type of play style can last. But with that in mind, I really like what you would get in him as a player, especially in round 3. At the end of the day, if it were up to me, I think that the Cowboys need to also address running back, whether that be early on or later. I think that they should go out in free agency and add a running back just to have a little bit more comfort knowing that they have someone, but go get a young guy that can fit your team and what you're trying to do for the next 4 seasons, and you call it there. So, with that being said, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's mock draft. Tell me down below what you guys think, what you guys would do. Do you think that the Cowboys should go a different direction? Tell me down in the comment section down below. And with that, I will catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye.